Hello, welcome back. It's been a while, more than a while. The evil Rona certainly threw a wrench into most of my plans. I actually already wanted to have uploaded all of the new interludes and the faction stories, but that obviously didn't happen. So we're actually jumping into the Echo Aria story now, before the patch ends. So I can jump straight into chapter 14 once it releases. Which is the same I wanted to do for Echo Aria, but well, that certainly also didn't happen. But we can change that now. This is also my first time even trying to record after my sickness, so let's hope that works out. But yes, I have wanted to play this forever, so let's get into it. Operation Red Tide. They are heading toward the shoreline. Who or what is heading toward the shoreline? 5:30 a.m. Universal Time. On a transport craft in low Earth orbit. The engine emits a low and steady hum. After some time, the crew's ears become accustomed to the sound. Rather than finding it disruptive, the uniform rhythm is like white noise, lulling the crew with the desire to sleep. The seatbelts secure them to their seats, comforting them despite the weightlessness. Yet their need and longing for gravity are instinctive, carved in their genes. There's a sense of emptiness and loss in the vacuum of space. This loss only amplifies the sense of drowsiness. I just clicked on that. In order to suppress the impulse to close your eyes and take a nap, you slowly shift your gaze to the porthole. You see the quiet universe dotted with stars. The transport craft should be traveling at inconceivable speed. But in the vastness of space, the stars, millions of light years away, fail to serve as a reference point for you moving forward, regardless of how fast the ship is. If it were not for the hum of the engine in your ears, there would be no sensation of the ship moving. The sense of emptiness continues to escalate. Just as your consciousness is about to succumb, numbness makes its way up your spine. Everything you see appears to stop, as if someone presses the pause button. Fragments of memory begin to rush before your eyes in a kaleidoscope of colors. You were infiltrated by Hua Shu in City 075. Your mind beacon was forced into a corrupted mind. Did that happen? Initiating a mind connection with a corrupted is I can't pronounce that word, holy no. Unprecedented. Thank you. After thorough examination, we found that your mind beacon has become corrupted. Oh, that's certainly not good. And up until this point, you haven't been able to recover from your corruption. I'm sure you've also noticed that your mind has fallen into a constant state of intermittent memory replays. Memory replays isn't exactly the most appropriate term for your symptoms, but it will do for the time being. In other words, you will randomly fall into a chaotic storm of memory flashbacks without warning. Some of your repressed or supposedly forgotten thoughts, numerous fragments of memory will bombard your consciousness. There's nothing wrong with your physical body other than the mind beacon pollution, at least for now. The Science Council also wants to put you under constant observation to see whether any other physiological functions will be affected by a corrupted mind beacon. That's what happens when you don't record for a while. I can't even read anymore. But that's for later. I think you'll have more difficult challenges to tackle in the interim. Your vision fragments again. What happened in the underground cavern is enough for you to be court-martialed. Already. I think we saved the world, kinda, maybe? You're still sitting here only because you were responsible for defeating the Polyphag. See? See? I think that's worth it. Locking up the heroes responsible for defeating the Polyphag would only cause an uproar among the people, so the decision was made to allow you to continue field operations. However, don't think your merits have offset the severity of this issue. The authorities won't simply let bygones be bygones. As long as the distrust remains, countless pairs of eyes will be watching your every move. If you do anything out of the ordinary during this time, even the president can't protect you. During this time? What time? Nicola has always been blunt. Pay it no mind. You know what he meant. It was more of a reminder than a warning. I know. Why are you telling me this? Because I have a suspicion that this isn't over yet. It's never over. We don't even believe that it's over. I need people I can trust and deploy when the time comes. That includes the Grey Ravens. I don't have time to have my people tangled up in bureaucracy, and neither do you. At the very least, soldiers should die on the battlefield, not on the gallows of those they serve. The most important thing for Eden now is to solve problems and defeat the enemy, not go on a witch hunt against one of our own. As long as you can prove your loyalty and your worth to Eden in the next battle, that supervision will naturally lift. But right now, I've heard from Azimuth about your problems. Do you want to stay in the ICU or continue duty on the front line? Of course I. A golden arc of light suddenly shatters your recollection. Well, I certainly want to stay on the front line, but maybe that is not such a good idea right now. Your consciousness returns in an instant. You do not have the time to think about how long you were out, seeing that the arc sliding through your memory was not an illusion. It is real. Outside the porthole, the unchanging scenery suddenly shifts with the appearance of the arc. Like a scimitar fresh out of the forge, a gentle and curved horizon forms in the afterglow of the golden light amid the sea of stars. Hidden up until this moment, Earth finally reveals its true face. Soon, the faint golden light turns blinding white. As the transport craft continues to coast along in orbit, the sun slowly rises from the distant shadow, illuminating the surface of the blue planet in its entirety. Without the atmosphere to scatter the light, the dazzling rays of sunlight are sharp and absent of their usual tenderness. Oh, I can imagine that. Just staring at it momentarily fills your brain with an unspeakable sense of vertigo. Come. Commandant. Someone seems to be calling out to you by your ear. Commandant! Right as your thoughts are about to drift away again, the stern voice brings you back to reality. You suddenly turn your head to see Liv and Lucia standing before you with looks of worry. Lee furrows his eyebrows faintly. Huh? Lee lets out a sigh of relief. His frown brows. I've never heard that before. His frown brows seem to relax as well. Don't look directly at the sun without the proper equipment. Even though the porthole is equipped with a filter, the UV light is still enough to burn your retinas. I'm fine. I was just lost in thought. Lucia looks out the porthole to where you were looking. She seems to want to say something, but before she can speak, she's interrupted by another harsh voice. Is now the time for slaking and idle chit-chat, Grey Raven Commandant? Following this, a hologram projection appears before you. Who's that? Who are you? Fluorescence lights from the outline of an elderly man in the air. He's wearing the same standard-issued Commandant uniform. Every meticulous pleat is as stern and upright as his expression. Sure. The man's eyes are slightly cloudy with age, but his posture remains upright like that of an unyielding pine. With eyes like an old falcon, he scans all the soldiers aboard the transport craft. How many people are here? Just a moment ago it sounded like we were alone. Now there are soldiers? Although you're not communicating face to face, and there's no literal eye contact, all soldiers present subconsciously straighten their posture as they meet his gaze. This is Hans speaking. I will be the Chief Commander for this ground mission. Azimuth, the Science Council Chief Technician, has already explained the specific matters of this mission to you. I won't go over them, as I'm sure most of you have already committed the details of this mission to memory. Certainly we did. However, given the lack of discipline among the construct squads I just witnessed, let me reiterate these orders to prevent further negligence. Upon saying this, Hans' gaze seems to sweep past you. Meet his gaze. He just swept past me. How am I meeting his... Whatever. Let's begin the mission briefing. Following Hans' words, your mind returns to before your departure. 24 hours ago. Babylonia War Room. Several commandants gather before the war table. How many commandants are there anyway? It always sounds like commandants are a pretty rare breed, so to speak. The battle against the Ascendants has come to an end. Your heroic deeds on the surface were astonishing. Unfortunately, the Parliament is unable to give you the medals and honors you deserve at the moment. Hey, why not? I'm cheated. After receiving this urgent assembly order, you've probably realized new troubles have arisen and are imminent. Seliger, project information. Yes, President. Seliger quickly operates the terminal, and the holographic projection reveals a series of remote sensing images. Immediately, the dark blue screen is covered with a large swath of red. Sanguine crystals clusters bloom on the surface in the shape of arteries, forming a cobweb of rivers entrench in the surface. Some of the images are very blurry, either due to issues with the transmissions, or perhaps the photographers were facing external threats and unable to record everything. Someone gasps. Shortly after, the entire conference room falls deathly quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Hessen clears his throat, breaking the solemn silence. Yeah, it certainly doesn't look too good, does it? Where is that? Asimov, since you were the first person to organize the data on the current situation, I think it's only appropriate you take it from here. Asimov nods and approaches the war table. By the look of his haggard expression, pale lips, and faint dark circles under his eyes, he appears to have had several sleepless nights the past few days. However, right as he opens his mouth to speak, his usual professionalism as the Science Council Chief Technician Officer returns. Some of the teams that ran dispatch during the last large-scale ground operation may be unaware of this, so I'll explain it briefly. As you can see, during our last ground operation, we uncovered dark red tides containing new... He pauses for a moment, ever struggling to come up with a proper wording. New forms of the punishing virus. Based on their physical properties, the Science Council has decided on the name Red Tide for the time being. However, this is definitely not a natural phenomenon caused by the explosion and proliferation of red algae in the conventional ecological sense. This entity has nothing to do with water. After conducting an analysis of samples, the red liquid you see is the Punisher virus itself. One of our construct teams engaged in a direct confrontation with the Ascendants during a previous operation. Nicola suddenly steps forward and interrupts Asimov. Get to the point, Asimov. Nicola, let Asimov present whatever information he feels is pertinent to the mission. How are they arguing? They really have nothing better to do. Asimov furrows his brows, seemingly slightly displeased, then continues speaking. I can imagine. I won't repeat the specific details of the operation, only the results. The commandants present who have participated in previous operations have most likely encountered new forms of corrupted. These enemies are unlike conventional corrupted. Instead, they are a form of pure Punisher virus, possessing apparent biological features. More specifically, they represent an evolution of the punishing virus, punishing hetero creatures. The specific mechanism and reasons are unknown. We don't know why the punishing virus is capable of self-evolution. The only thing we can say for certain is that they are created by the punishing virus within the Red Tide. The Red Tide will devour machinery and organisms, then decompose them into nourishment for breeding hetero creatures. Originally, after repelling the Ascendants, the proliferation of the Red Tide began to diminish. However, we received a transmission from a recon team 24 hours ago. The red tide has resurfaced. The proliferation is different from last time, so we didn't realize the severity until it was already too late. The red tide is like a relentless cancer, going into remission only to recur anew. The red tide initially lurked in an underground cavern that was designed as a nuclear fallout shelter by City 075. It circulated through the city's underground waterways before reaching critical mass and emerging onto the surface. We dispatched a recon team to the city ruins to ensure that it was under our supervision. However, the characteristics of the red tide seems to fluctuate without rhyme or reason. In this regard, it is not a tide in a traditional sense, but more of a fluid organism that can act autonomously. That makes sense. Which makes it a lot more dangerous. Plus, the underground cavern was built in secret, so many places are now blind spots. Some underground waterways connect to nearby rivers through an intricate network of pipelines. Even if the rivers have dried up, the riverbeds and ravines are still there. A portion of the red tide was able to slip out of the city undetected through those blind spots. Moreover, as you just saw on the screen, the red tide has formed tributaries along the surface of the wasteland. After receiving this information from our scouts on the surface, the Science Council has conducted emergency tests on this form of the red tide. Fortunately, this red tide isn't as rampant as the first time, nor has it expanded to the point of becoming an unstoppable deluge. Wait, we have several red tides now? Is that what I'm hearing? Unfortunately, its distribution is still far too prolific. The red tide has formed a real river, dispersing into countless smaller tributaries. After calculating the course of these tributaries, we found one thing. They are headed toward... Asimov Singer swipes the screen, displaying a wider version of the map. His fingertip points to a large blue sector. The ocean. Oh my god. Yeah, I can imagine. It's heading toward the shoreline. If we allow the red tide to reach the shoreline, there's no turning back. Unlike the ocean, land serves as an inorganic buffer zone that can block the red tide. There's no better medium for the wanton proliferation and spread of red tide than water. The whole sea will become corrupted, devoured and assimilated by the red tide. By that time, the punishing virus will spread to every corner of the world. I mean, in a sense it already has, but I get what you mean. In order to curb the spread of the red tide, Babylonia has formulated a plan to bombard the red tide with the Longinus arsenal, referencing the plan made during the battle at the space station. The first step of this plan is to obtain the exact coordinates and location of the red tide. During the Golden Age, you only needed to send a request to SatNav's system to obtain the specific coordinates for an area. But now, these satellites have become corrupted by the punishing virus, so we can no longer rely on them. Hassan approaches the war table. Next, I will brief everyone on the mission. As you wish, Mr. President. Asimov nods, then takes a step back. Celica. Celica presses a button. The movable panel in the center of the war table separates into two sections with a crisp pop as a small platform rises up from within. To everyone's surprise, a long black hexagonal needle, nearly 1.5 meters in length, appears. 1.5. Is that even a needle anymore? This device was promptly developed by the Science Council. It's called a bit domain node. It will be distributed to all team captains present at the beginning of the operation. Your task is to locate the edge of the red tide. Insert the bit domain node, activate it, then protect it until you receive the evacuation order from Babylonia. The total coverage must include all of the red tide tributaries. We need to remove it all at once to ensure that no residual tide is left this time. If you are attacked by hetero creatures during this period, hold your position to ensure the integrity and security of the bit domain node. In order to ensure that this operation goes according to plan, we will saturate all deployments, positionings, and attacks. 8 teams will be deployed to execute this calibration mission. Each team is composed of an elite task force led by a commander and several consort squads. The elite task force led by the commander will be responsible for deploying the node, while the consort teams will be responsible for protecting them in the interim. Hopefully, all 8-bit domain nodes will be deployed. That's the only ideal situation. However, Babylonia needs at least 3-bit domain nodes to be successfully deployed in order to obtain accurate enough coordinates. If you have any questions, please raise them now, and Asimov will explain the details to you. What is a bit domain node? I mean, it's for location purposes. I don't have any questions, I think. Are there any other questions? Alright, there's just one more thing I would like to add. Unlike when the red tide was found in City 075, the consistency is more like running water than thick mud this time. We aren't sure why. Regardless, all you need to know is that the concentration and volatility of the red tide are significantly less than what it was before. I would expect it to be more fluid and faster would actually increase its volatility, but okay. Only when the tide rises with the punishing virus concentration reached the equivalent found in dead zones. Was it different before? I'm not even sure anymore. According to monitoring reports, low tide concentration is within the range of normal punishing zones. This is one of the reasons why the recon team failed to notice that the red tide had moved. Okay. Thankfully, however, this means that the protective devices enhanced by the Science Council on such short notice are sufficient for working in proximity to the red tide for the duration of the mission. However, it's for only a short duration. Avoid close contact with the red tide after landing, especially during high tide. That should suffice. Seems like everyone fully understands the mission and the gravity of our dilemma. This presents an important opportunity for Babylonia to launch an attack. However, we need to change orbit and reduce altitude to commence the attack, which puts us at risk of intersecting the network of corrupted satellites. As such, our anti-air defenses won't allow us to remain in position for very long. Similarly, your mission is not to annihilate Heterotetris, but to deploy the bit domain nodes. The nodes aren't particularly difficult to deploy, but in a strategic sense, this mission is crucial. It requires a high degree of collaboration and team awareness from all of you. Avoid head-on confrontation and needless acts of heroism that do not otherwise serve the success of the mission. I have a feeling that we might not listen to that. Our top priority is to protect the nodes until Babylonia receives the coordinate data. I know that the commandants of the task force's presence are among the most elite. I do not question your ability. However, this operation needs neither personal heroism nor combat ability. It kind of requires combat ability, don't lie. What matters most are judgment and decision making for the overall benefit of the mission. Most of you are used to fighting solely with your own team, so for this operation only, I have specifically arranged Hans to act as the chief commander for the calibration operation at ground level. Hassan slightly turns to one side. The silver-haired man standing behind Hassan in stern silence since the beginning steps forward and salutes. Yes, Mr. President. Some of the team captains present show faint expressions of confusion on how an elderly man, seemingly a few years older than even Hassan, is serving as the chief commander for such an important mission. Hey, don't disrespect experience. For safety reasons, only the commandant of each task force has the authority to deploy their bit domain node. Please make accurate judgments and verify with Chief Commander Hans before activating your bit domain node to ensure that Babylonia receives the most accurate coordinates. I almost read this as Hassan because I'm so used to reading that. The rise and fall of the red tide will greatly affect the real-time topographic changes within the combat zone. There may have already been significant changes within the duration of this meeting. In case of emergency, please follow Chief Commander Hans' orders. This concludes our mission briefing. As previously stated, give priority to my command. Don't question my judgment. Obeying orders is the first requirement of a soldier. Is it? I hope the forces of Babylonia nowadays won't let me down. Are you not from Babylonia? So many questions. With that, the hologram disappears from the transport craft. Right as the fluorescence light dissipates, everyone cannot help but breathe a collective sigh of relief. Whispers from other construct teams can be heard nearby. Have you met Chief Commander Hans? No, but he looks older than the President. Isn't he a bit old for going out on the front line? Who knows? Don't write off Chief Commander Hassens. See? I'm so used to that. Don't write off Chief Commander Hans so easily. There must be a reason why the President arranged for this. Commander-Chief Hans was born in the Golden Age. He experienced the post-pandemic age and the Arcadia evacuation firsthand. After that, he continued to work in the Center for Combat Intelligence as one of its core members. I didn't expect that this operation would need someone of his caliber to join us. I'm sure he's seen his fair share of warfare and bloodshed, just like the President. He's bound to be strict on others. Don't take to heart what just happened. Worried about me? Thank you. Lee turns his head slightly and scoffs quietly. When does he ever not? I'm only stating a fact. His personal information is not confidential and can be accessed directly in the archives. There's nothing worth talking about in private. You smile noddedly. That seems to be the normal reaction, isn't it? You glance to the side at Lucia, who is staring out of the porthole. Lucia? Huh? Apologies, Commandant. What are you looking at? I'm just looking at the same thing you were, Commandant. The sunrise? Thank you. Yes. You ran just lost in thought, were you? What were you thinking about? What were you thinking about, Commandant? Okay. Found the first typo. No, I probably already read some and didn't notice. Sunrise at low Earth orbit looks completely different than it does on the surface. Is that what you were thinking? Not. Lucia lets out a barely visible smile. Let out a smile? Wait. I'm finally beginning to understand what you're thinking, Commandant. It's so bright. It's even overloading my visual components. And please stop looking at it. In low Earth orbit, Babylonia completes one revolution around the Earth in approximately 2 hours. Such a sunrise occurs more than 12 times a day. Wait, what? No. Okay. Our residents of Eden, born in space, have long been accustomed to such a spectacle. But 12 times a day, that sounds a little annoying, actually. The rising and setting of the sun no longer serves as symbols of hope. Day and night are no longer measured in 24-hour cycles. People must rely on other ways to define a day. How much longer? How much longer until landfall? 300 kilometers is not that far. Looking down from this height, the entirety of the blue planet is no longer in view, only the changing surface. The red-tinted Earth, the blue ocean, rolling storm clouds along the tropics dancing in the stratosphere, quietly shrouding the Earth. For some peculiar reason, as the distance gets closer and closer, the haunting sense of emptiness gradually disappears. This is not going to, but returning to Earth. Upon arrival, everything will once again carry its intended meaning. It is the cradle of all life, and the home for which all life will return. Attention passengers! The aircraft will begin to decelerate and reduce orbital altitude. Reverse thrusters will ignite in 15 seconds. Rapid deceleration will generate 2 Gs of force. Please fasten your seatbelts. The broadcast on the intercom suddenly halts all extraneous thoughts. Sit upright and firmly grip the handrails. A sudden force pushes the crew firmly against the spongy padding of the seats. The overwhelming pressure strains their eyes, hearts, and bodies. But this oppressive force and restraint, oh my god, completely dispelled all previous unparalleled confusion. My, what a start. Let me just take a short break. These prologues are so long nowadays. The Lone Hawk. We're not so lone, are we? On the desert wasteland, jagged rock formations jut out of the ground through which the red tide flows. One she squats on a towering rock formation. The red tide quietly trickles below. Although the tide here occasionally swells, it's not an unstoppable force like previous accounts in the city ruins. I mean, it's still small, you could say. Occasionally, he sees strange debris, rusty metal, shredded rubber, and even pale animal bones floating in the red icon. There doesn't seem to be any fear in Wangxi. He just lets out a big yawn instead. As if we expected anything else. How much longer do I gotta wait? On the rugged surface of the rock, there's not a flat enough space to place the tripod for a sniper rifle. Oh, poor Wangxi. Well, the latest information should have been uploaded to Babylonia. What's taking them so long? I don't know what's going on with the captain either. I'm always left to do all the reckon work here. Now I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. If they don't dispatch any reinforcements, this place is gonna... The red tide tributary had only just reached this place 24 hours ago. But now, aside from only the tallest of rocks, the entire area has been completely flooded. Fortunately, the red tide is only quietly flowing and not surging out of control. The rock on which he stands still towers high above. The indoor device and protective equipment strengthened by the support force on such short notice enable him to make observations from a relatively safe distance without fear of corruption. However, this cannot continue much longer. It was only a sparse red tide tributary not long ago. Now it has completely inundated the area. Even if he proceeds with caution, he is better off leaving this area sooner rather than later. Not only is the punishing virus concentration rising, the red tide also brings life to the punishing virus. The red tide surging below the rock is a breeding ground for hetero creatures. Large red crystal crust. What's that? Large red crystal clusters, like reeds and shrubs, surround That's just a tongue twister now. Surround the trickling tide. Red creatures of various shapes and sizes pass between them. These creatures are neither corrupted machines nor constructs. These hetero creatures glowing with a red aura are merely vestiges of life on Earth that had been devoured by the red tide. On the riverbank, Wangxi catches a glimpse of a motionless stone suddenly crack as 4 limbs protrude from within. Wangxi's bionic skin quickly calculates the current wind speed. 1.6 meters per second, wind blowing from 4 o'clock. My sniper scope should move a notch right to compensate for the wind. Slightly leaning to the side, the crosshairs in the narrow scope move 1 mil to the right. 1 mil? Do you actually write that? Ready, aim, fire, bullseye. The bullet releases from the chamber, landing a direct hit on the hetero creatures. The hetero creature collapses onto the ground, writhes in pain, then becomes limp and lifeless. Soon after, the overflowing red tide reclaims it into nutrients for a hetero creature to spawn from within. Why even bother killing it then? There's no end to them. Setting down his sniper rifle, Wangxi takes out his rangefinder binoculars and looks in the direction of the extending tributary. This rock is about 20 meters in height, without obstacles and regardless of meteorological conditions. The maximum distance that can be visually measured should be... Wangxi closes his eyes for a brief second before arriving at a conclusion. 17 kilometers. You are slower than Li though. And just notice, Li is so extremely fast at calculating stuff. However, the rangefinder can no longer see the end of the tributary. Well, that's not good. In other words, the red tide tributary currently flowing below is extending at a speed of more than 17 kilometers a day. Looks like this is no laughing matter. He puts away the rangefinder and then stands up. Suddenly the deafening roar of motors rumbles in the sky above. Wang Shi quickly looks up, his drowsy eyes suddenly open wide. Huh, I don't believe it. Shooting stars aren't visible during the day. But in Wang Shi's golden eyes he sees the vivid reflection of a metallic meteor, followed by a long trail of black smoke as it descends to Earth. That doesn't sound good. Did something happen? Attention passengers! The aircraft will begin to decelerate and reduce orbital altitude. Reverse thrusters will ignite in 15 seconds. Rapid deceleration will generate 2 Gs of force. Please fasten your seatbelts. We already did that. Attention passengers! The aircraft is approaching the ionosphere. Entering communication blackout for 67 seconds. All departments have switched to onboard wired communication. Attention passengers! The aircraft is approaching the mesosphere, preparing to shut down the aerospace engine and switch to the aircraft engine. Please fasten your seatbelts and brace for turbulence. It's not like we unfastened it in the span of a few seconds. Attention passengers! The aircraft has entered the inner atmosphere, initiating aviation procedure. Attention passengers! The aircraft has entered the stratosphere. How much? Attention passengers! The aircraft has entered the troposphere. Attention passengers! Due to impaired visibility from the current sandstorm, the system is unable to confirm the location of the red tide. I was expecting something else, but that's fine. The system can detect the red tide? Then we must proceed according to the original plan. Our mission starts now. Disperse and proceed with your duties. I wish you all the best in completing the mission. That was fast. The sudden tremor of the aircraft's hull made every passenger's heart skip a beat. Even the constructs? The violent shaking catches you off guard, causing your head to bang against the hull of the aircraft. Normally, you will be able to stabilize yourself. However, your consciousness becomes shrouded in darkness before you are able to adjust your posture in time. During a memory playback, you will be completely pulled into a memory spiral. This overload of information will make you unable to control your body and perceive what is happening around you. Fortunately, the playbacks dissipate as fast as they manifest. You may recount a certain duration of time subjectively, but only a few seconds may pass in real time. By the way, during this period your subconscious will become hyperactive. You may be overcome with perplexing ideas and make providing decisions. That sounds like the best situation to be in during this mission. Great. That's because your brain processes a lot of information internally, but your subjective thinking can keep up with this processing speed. I can't say for sure whether this will have a positive or negative impact. I don't know either. However, it's worth noting that the situation on the battlefield can change at a moment's notice. Since your memory playbacks are unpredictable and beyond your control, they may prove fatal in battle. That's what I was thinking. To be on the safe side, I advise against participating in battles that require direct confrontation with the enemy for the time being. Just as you pull yourself out of a memory playback, the metal hull rapidly approaches. You struggle to avoid the collision, but you cannot even lift a finger. You can only succumb to the whim of your memories. Okay. It's been quite some time, Grey Raven Commandant. Surprised to see me, I take it? I take it, my god. To be honest, it took quite some effort to reach you. If Chairman Allen hadn't lobbied for me, I don't think this would be possible. Miss Ayla. The task forces have all heard about the heroic deeds of the Grey Ravens at the Ascendant base. I've even heard about them in Babylonia. If you've been in direct contact with the Ascendants, have you seen the Ascendant who attacked me on the space station? Never mind. He's not important. The only thing I care about is whether you found any sign of her in their base. Who do you mean by her? Just as the pink-haired girl is about to say a name, your memory stops and then cuts to black as if it had been tampered with. Sure. Severe pain fills your head, and your thoughts stagnate for a moment. Commandant! Liv, no need to get up. So. Sorry, I was lost in thought. Shh. It's turbulence. Stay put. Attention passengers. The aircraft is experiencing turbulence. Attempting to stabilize altitude. Please stay seated so as not to change the aircraft's center of gravity. Thunderstorms rumble outside of the airport craft, yeah? Transport craft. Electric arcs flash among the clouds, shaking everyone with an even more violent tremor. Experiencing excessive turbulence. Attempting to disengage by expediting can't speak anymore. The descent sequence. Please do not panic. That guy died. No, in a situation like this that won't. The turbulence continues to escalate. Due to the emergency maneuver, the aircraft has deviated from the original target. The aircraft is still experiencing turbulence. Turbulence has deformed the portside wing due to excessive load bearing. Aerodynamics compromised. Initiating emergency landing procedure. Yeah. I guess that's what Wonchi saw from below, no? The sharp crunch of the portside wing proves to be the final blow to the transport craft, as half of the deformed wing plummets to the ground. The aircraft cannot return to a stable altitude for landing, estimating ground impact of approximately 15 degrees. At this angle, the aircraft is at risk of crash landing. Thanks for the information. Initiating parachute evacuation procedure. Depressurizing cabin. Opening tailgate in 15 seconds. Tailgate open. All personnel, please parachute out immediately. The initial impact against the hull nearly knocks you unconscious, and you struggle to move. We're not doing too well. Descending into a tailspin, the blood on your forehead blurs your vision. The seatbelt is now proving to be a death sentence. Perhaps due to the impact, repeated attempts to release the seatbelt are all in vain. Asimov was right. During a memory playback, you are but a lamb to the slaughter. In the dim haze of light, you catch a glimpse of consort teams evacuating the aircraft one after another. Hurry up and prepare for evacuation. Right as you stand up, the cabin shakes violently again. I've secured a bit domain node. When will we parachute out? Too late. The transport craft has stalled. It's too dangerous to parachute now. Brace for impact, Lucia. Help the commander. Got it. Right as you're about to crash into the metal hull again, someone shields your head and pulls you into the embrace. The embrace is cold and familiar. Lucia. I've got you, Commander. Don't worry. I'll protect you. Close eyes. Sometime later. Did we crash? Maybe it was just a few seconds. Maybe it was quite some time. When all the dust settled, the forced landing was closer to a crash landing. I did not expect anything else at this point. You hear the sound of a laser cutting metal by your ears. Okay. You opened his eyes. Beautiful. You opened your eyes slightly to see Lee cutting away the hull. Lee, Liv, Lucia. Don't move, Commandant. In a rare tone of sternness, Liv stops you as you prepare to move. Lee kicks open the crumbling metal hull that had been cut. At that moment, light from the sky pours into the cabin. Hurry. Lucia, get the Commandant out. Lucia removes you from the transport craft. Looking around, you find the three constructs unfazed. Your wounded forehead is the only sign of damage. Lucia, set the Commandant down. I will play emergency aid. Alright. Having experience as a former medic, Liv quickly stamps the bleeding and bandages your wounds. Fortunately, it's just a flesh wound. It just looks more serious than what it actually is. I'm surprised Liv is so calm though. Usually they have a tendency to overreact. Abra's forward, Lucia lets out a sigh of relief off to the side, then draws her weapon and looks around vigilantly. Now is not the time to let our guard down. Watch your surroundings. Surrounded by barren wasteland, the crash site must be far off the beaten path leading to the original destination. If it is just an ordinary wasteland, it would not have mattered. More importantly, however, was where the crew had crash landed. What's that? To everyone's surprise, the crash site is not just some remote location. Rather, it is amidst the tributaries of the Red Tide. Well, lucky us. More aptly put, they are at the bar to the tributaries. Though they are not inundated by the Red Tide, they are by no means out of harm's way. Sand billowing in the wind impairs visibility, making movement in any direction nigh impossible. Okay. What's that sound? The sound is rich and melodious, like the call of a large mammal. Yeah, whale. It's the first thing I thought. As the sound becomes louder and louder, a rustling approaches from the depths of the sandstorm. In a flash, the three grey ravens stand in front to protect you. Do we actually get to play a game now? My. That sounds too heavy. I can't see where we're going. We received a comms request of an unknown signal. It is identified as a Babylonian console. But truly. Grey Raven? And you are? Wang Xi of Striker. I've been scouting this area. You are at the heart of the Red Tide. You must leave immediately. I left the beacon in an area nearby. Move toward its direction. I do not have a button for that though. Also, what did I do? Did I do anything? I can see that without that very helpful button. Thank you. Why are there human clothes? It's too wide open here. People can easily lose the sense of distance. They probably thought they could cross the desert. Wait a sec, there's something in the jacket. It's a piece of paper? What's on it? The remaining food and serum can't last us through this winter. We must move. We need to find enough food, so Ray and others can... It looks like a torn diary. I can see the date at the bottom. There's only this page left. The edge of this paper looks like it's been burned. The temperature difference between morning and night can be huge in this environment. If they had to burn the diary to keep themselves warm, they probably are already... Let's keep moving. This fancy button doesn't really do a lot, does it? What exactly are you doing? Still have no idea where to go? No, I don't! Fine. Follow my instructions from now on. Then give me instructions. Watch out! Woo! Hero creatures nearby. Ouch, what hit me? I really can't see anything. I don't know if the button is supposed to do anything useful. It doesn't feel like it. Let's keep moving. The beacon isn't far away. Is it? Oh, that thing. We should be safe here, right? Doesn't sound like it. Despite the dense layer of clouds overhead, blotting out the sun, the Earth's surface is still scorching hot. The sand carried in the scorching wind stings your face. More whale noises. There it is again. The sound echoes through the air. The red tide, which was flying quietly, begins to fill the riverbed once more. Although the sound seems distant, it still seems to resonate from every direction. Liv, inject the commander with a serum. The red tide is beginning to rise again. Punishing concentration is rising at unprecedented rate. That was the last one. Most of the serum was smashed in the landing. Oh, great. The bit domain node support frame and even the comm device for contacting the main force were all damaged. How long can we hold out? Less than 2 hours. Holding the broken bit node, we broke it. Liv shows a look of guilt. Sorry, Commandant, I couldn't keep it safe. It all happened so quickly, it's not your fault. The Commandant is right. We couldn't have anticipated that. The team falls silent. Can we really trust a construct that claims to be part of Strikehawk? If he's one of Crown's comrades. Right at that moment, a Hedron creature appears out of nowhere and ambushes the team. Commandant! Right before the Hedron creature is about to stab you with a sharp spike, a bullet pierces the air and penetrates the creature. Still in shock, you cannot help but look in the direction of the shot's trajectory. A white figure looms in this yellow sandstorm. Just a reminder, your comms have been on this whole time. I heard everything you've said. Whoops. Just now. That was me. His languid voice suddenly becomes serious. Quit looking around and get over here. After quite some time, the four of you finally catch up to the white figure. Before you stands a young man with delicate silver hair and thick dark circles under his eyes. Wang Shi, correct? Thank you, Form. Thank me when we get out of this place. Come with me. Half-hearted and meaningless greetings are skipped over before they even begin. Nice. What's going on here? You first. We went into turbulence. Both sides are concise in their exchange. They truly are. Lee's not wanting to mince words. Wang Chi is too lazy to waste words. Great. Perfect combination. Wang Chi glances upward. Ah, I figured. Otherwise that land was a bit, His face turns blank. If it was yesterday, landing here wouldn't have been such an issue. Unfortunately, you're a day late. You mean... Wang Chi's troubled eyes widen as he retrains his apathetic tone, then responds seriously. The red tide hadn't reached this place until today. You'll be better... I can't read anymore, my god. You'll better see it for yourself, rather than me simply tell you. Let me start over. I'm Wang Shi from Strikehawk of the Task Force. Crum is my captain. I'm sure you've met. Since the last battle, Strikehawk has been investigating what's left of the Red Tide and searching for the location of Horseshoe and City 075. After hearing about the victory against the Polyphag, we stayed on the surface to continue monitoring the Red Tide. I was ordered by our captain to investigate the city's periphery. I was also the first person to inform Babylonia on the Red Tide's activity. Since Babylonia dispatched you here, I'll spare the details. I know who you are. We're Raven, correct? Sounds so sure and then, correct? Our captain mentioned you. Especially you, Commandant. Wang Shi's seriousness was only momentary. Shortly after he returned to his usual lazy self. But, looks like his description wasn't exactly, His narrow pair of golden eyes glances at you faintly. He cuts himself off halfway with a long yawn. What was that sound earlier? Oh, that? It always lasts anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. That long? Yeah, human ears can't hear a part of it. The frequency is between 10 and 40 Hz. But you can probably only hear it at above 20 Hz. Whenever the sound starts, the red tide begins to spread. What on earth? Sounds like whale song. See, I told you. A whale song. Interesting analogy. Human ears can only hear above 20 Hz. Whereas the vocalization of a blue whale is typically between 10 and 40 Hz. Humans refer to this as a whale song. But this isn't the ocean. This is a desert. How can there be the sound of whales? Not to mention that alive the roaring red tide rises whenever it appears. But what? If it's a death knell, then it's far too serene. My. Oh, thank you for that information. Beautiful. Oh my, that's another long story part, isn't it? Yeah, let me actually take a break here. It's already been like an hour, so let's continue later. Until then, thank you for watching.